she looked great. High up on the scaffolding, carrying a pile of slaves. But she said the thing that I found really hard were the pornographic pictures and the comments of the builder's yard.
We were, and perhaps still are, the fabulous Dirt Sisters. Once a Dirt Sister, always a Dirt Sister, really.
I'm Deb, infamous Deb Dirt.
And I'm Dorry, also known as Karunavaca, which is my Buddhist name.
And I'm Jane.
And I'm Kaffe, or Kaffe.
You didn't say Patella.
She's Stella Patella.
Yeah.
I'm Stella Patella.
We met each other,
Yeah,
didn't we?
we did meet each other.
Fell in love.
Yeah, we fell in love, and she just bought a saxophone and
My
had a
first
blue
doll
streak
chair.
in her hair, which was very fetching.
And in those days, I just left uni. I just wanted to do something free and beautiful, and I had a doll check that was the same price as this saxophone in the shop.
Wow.
I bought a saxophone.
Yeah, and I can't remember quite what we did, but we just had this thing about wanting to do music and stuff with women.
You wanted to play music in the streets wearing a hat with birds on it.
That was one thing I wanted.
I made her a hat with birds on it. Karunavaca, Dorry. Can we call you Dorry? Because you
Yeah,
were.
yeah, yeah.
She was Dorry then. Was working in the Whole Food shop, and I'd gone in to see her, and Stella was in the Whole Food shop, wearing really bright, stripy yellow and black trousers,
I remember them.
and holding a violin case.
Violin over my shoulder.
And so I went up to her and said, "Hello, do you want to be in my band?" Or a band, I don't know if I said my.
Do you want to play in a women's band?
A women's
I
band.
was like, oh, yeah.
The same Whole Food shop.
The same Deb Dirt.
Deb Dirt comes in and says, "Do you want to play bass in my band?"
Our band, I'm sure I
Our
said our
band.
band.
She was worried. She
It was a
A
place.
band. A band. Yeah.
And you said I don't play bass.
I said I don't even play guitar, let alone bass. And you said, "Oh no, but it's got 4 strings, so yeah."
Should be easy.
Yeah,
Did I say the same thing?
they're just a bit lower.
When did you
Stop.
So 81, 82, 84?
85, I think.
86?
84.
86.
84 maybe,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then it ended in 89.
End, the
88.
very end of '88, sort of
Yeah.
December.
December.
And you did
88.
do the same with me. I was sitting, I would come up to Nottingham for a building contract.
Because we were
I was-
both builders, weren't
Yeah. And so I was sitting in, having a tea break, feeling tired. And this complete stranger comes in and says, "Can you play the double bass?" Or something. "Can you play bass?" Like, nearly fell off my chair. And,
we? Could you play bass? Had somebody
and I
said
said,
Somebody must have told us.
I said, "Oh, yeah, a bit at school I did, you know." And he said, "Do you want to come round and see if you want to be in this band?" "Oh, all right, okay." But something about it being a co-op, you know, a collective where we had a meeting every week, we practiced 3 days, it was very
And we were
intense.
so
wasn't it?
committed to it,
We
weren't
were warming every
Yes,
weekend,
so intense.
travelling.
Yeah.
I mean, it was even though we earned almost nothing apart from busking.
And it felt like, to me, it felt like a tribe. That
I
we
was
were
gonna
this
say
chosen kind of special group of people, the chosen family, tribe,
Yeah.
going out there doing
Yeah.
this really creative stuff.
Yeah.
Da 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 ba 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 ra roo fa 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 ra ra.
There was a whole thing about women in the manual trades, and there was Deb being a roofer, which was pretty extraordinary. She was up there on the roofs doing her thing. It was really, it's quite bizarre to remember it. So it was really a sort of celebration of that. You know, it was very much within the kind of thing that was happening in the women's movement at that time, when there was quite a move. Jane was a joiner, and they were learning to mend cars and things.
Well,
so it was all part of that thing, like, you know,
We can do it for ourselves.
we can do it for ourselves, thank you very much. Angie Babes in Malibu, that was written...
From you working in the refuge?
Yeah, I
wasn't
was
it?
working in the Women's Refuge. I was working for Women's Aid at the time, and it was kind of based around talking to some of the women who were in the refuge. Some women who'd worked as strippers and prostitutes, So there were two particular women, that wasn't their names, that it was kind of loosely written about. Well, and just my distress about the kind of lives that those women had really, you know, and that mostly what they were doing was just trying to earn enough money to look after their children, you know, and they were seen, you know, their whole external thing was being these dead sexy women taking their clothes off and being prostitutes and all that, and actually they were somebody's mum, you know, and that they had pretty abusive lives themselves. What's the line at the end? There may be better things to do. How does it go?
But
the first thing is just to make it through, you know, and that was it. It was like survival stuff that these women were, and yet there they are as sort of titillation or whatever. And that, you know, you can make moral judgments about all those things, but actually those women were just trying to survive.
I think one of the things I really liked about it though was that it wasn't about this is, you know, it was very angry. There was a lot of anger in it, but it was very strong as well. It wasn't poor women having this terrible time.
They were great.
And then, you know, and the end of the song
Was
is
that
so
kind of-
positive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's such a
How does
upbeat.
it
Let's
go?
hear it for Angie Babes and Malibu.
Yeah.
And then there's it's
how
like
did
a
it go?
festival tune, isn't it?
Yeah,
How did
yeah,
it go,
yeah.
that line?
Major key, doesn't it?
Have you ever been
On the motorway, daylight headlights coming the other way. Heavy lorries, grey and green, rumbling through like something from my bad dream. Oh, where are you going? What is your load? Why are these armaments travelling the road? Where are they aimed at? Where is your war? Tell me, who is this for? Is that the right tune? What's the army is always on the move? Yeah. What's
Those
again?
The roads were full of great big green and grey lorries driving everywhere.
And what war was going on then? Golf?
Well, it's just
Well,
army. The army
it was
moves
the
around.
bloody
You have
army.
no.
About
It
the
is that
convoy,
thing. It's like
yeah.
you've got no idea what the hell is going on. You know,
Yeah.
there's all this money. There's all these people involved in the military, and they move around, and you feel like there's this other whole thing going on
Yeah.
that you know nothing about, apart from the fact you're paying for it. I remember there was some difficulties around street song. Do you remember that? Because
it
when we
was
used
about
to
rape.
when we used to sing that to mixed audiences, and people, well, you know, it's that thing that it's a song really about what it feels like being a woman walking on the streets in the dark, and that you don't know who the guy behind you is. But men could very easily hear that as all men are rapists, you know, and we did get some flack for that, and it wasn't that. It was saying you walk around as if, because you don't know, you know, and there was a sort of a bit about pornography and stuff in it. I mean, it was a very.
Just acknowledging how you have to be on guard.
And then we had those theatrical things which we never recorded, like Triangle Song, which was about non-monogamy, and we used to do it. We made a pyramid when we sang. It was this sort of a cappella song about all the complexities of trying to have non-monogamous relationships, which was, of course, what people were doing at that time. And it was very, very, you know, it was like a theatrical event, really. We all piled up on top of each other and sang this song, and people loved it, actually, didn't they? It was very, very popular.
I think
Slightly stronger at 21. Were you just on Jane? And then we had Kaffe. This relationship's too heavy for me. I'm worn out supporting you. I'm feeling trapped. I need more space, but I'm worried about losing you. And you've got car pressure on you, isn't it?
I'm too heavy up here. I don't remember what happened.
Whoever's on my right shoulder blade, that's better.
That was in some sort of harmony, wasn't it?
There was a harmony. Okay, enough.
We invented our own record label because we didn't think anyone would touch us with a large pole, and so we made our own record label, didn't we?
And invented world laundrette music.
And this is our quote: "World laundrette music, the like of which you've never heard before."
Which
That
is
was the
probably
Dirt
true.
Sisters quote, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And then we had Cat Flap Collective, didn't we? We set up as a business so that we could get enterprise
allowance, which is what everyone survived on in those days.
And I love the fact that our first records was Spin Round Records number 734. Was it all our lucky numbers? Or
So that one's 735. We just wanted to sound like we've been doing this for a while.
That was kind of the thing in the 80s, you know, is if you were doing unusual music and you were an independent group, then the most sensible thing to do was just set up your own record label and press a few
Island
hundred records.
showed an interest, but it never happened, did it?
But you don't want to be part of a big label, you know.
Well, we had a big thing about accessibility, as I recall, which is quite wacky because we were quite peculiar as well. But we had a big thing about accessibility and something about hating that distance between, you know, the performer and just life and people. So, and it was part also of this idea, you know, come on, do it. Don't just be a consumer, you know, be part of it, engage, you know. So I think playing on the streets was it's just this very immediate thing you can do.
You knew if they stopped and watched you and were enjoying it, it was up to them, you know, it was their choice. It was so free that way, wasn't it? That was
Yeah. A lot of people got it. Do you remember we used to get quite a lot of older women, you know, elderly women who would just absolutely love us. They'd sort of start dancing or something, and it would be like somehow they got it.
They got
it was
our madness.
Extraordinary. Well, and they got something about, you know, women being out there doing it. I think so. Sometimes it felt like we were sort of doing it for other people. Do you know what I mean? We were expressing something that maybe other people's lives were more
and we were
constrained.
We were good on the streets, you know, especially when we were travelling around and doing quite a few, playing a lot, like twice a day for an hour a day. And we would dress up. I mean, we weren't there in scrubby old t-shirts and shorts or whatever. Sometimes we would, and we'd go, oh no, then the money, we wouldn't earn enough money. We'd wear dresses, we'd had dance routines. And
mad kind of multicoloured, sort of rather circusy kind of clothing.
And we just had a really good time.
We did.
And leapt about, and people loved it.
Yeah. And if you think that there was all that stuff about, you know, that men own the streets, you know, and the difficulties, it was like we really did. It was felt like we reclaimed the streets in a certain way in doing it, I think, didn't we?
Yeah. And even the thing about the clothes, kind of like they weren't the kind of clothes that they were like fashion clothes. They were clothes that, you know, some people might choose to kind of ridicule in another situation, but because we were forced to be reckoned with, we could, you know, feel strong to wear. Like loopy stuff.
Yeah.
You have to be quite brave. You have to be brave to do it, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have to sort of and read the crowd, don't you, as well? Because we changed the tunes a bit, didn't we? If it's like that's
It's
not going very well.
a completely other thing, actually, isn't it? It's a completely other profession.
Yeah.
But it was nice for that you get the direct response, don't you? You can tell whether people like it or not. Whereas in a gig situation, it's like, oh, they're a bit quiet, they're not that.
I think it was a real privilege, actually, for us as a group of women to have that facility within our music to be able to go and play on the street as well, because we could give to another kind of crowd. I mean, personally, I think listening as well now back to the music that we played then and remembering about the fact that we often played to very selected audiences. You know, sometimes they were women only events, sometimes they were art centres, sometimes they were benefits for, I don't know, Nicaraguan building projects or miners or something like this. And so there'd only be a certain kind of person that would come. Whereas when you're on the street, anyone's going to hear it. So to actually be able to do that as well was fantastic.
Outside we didn't really do songs because it's quite you can't really sing over this particular combination of instruments without amplification, and we didn't use. Well, you had a little battery amp for your fiddle. Was that was all we used, wasn't it? But apart from that, so we didn't do songs outside. We did instrumental numbers, and the thing about outside is it has to be pretty perky, you know, because you've just got passing trade, so you want to grab them, you know, so it has to be kind of lively and energetic. And I think a lot of stuff, we did quite a lot of things that were influenced by sort of Yiddish and Eastern European music, particularly outside. And African, and ska. All right, we did everything as usual.
And I think the sort of the words came in between, didn't they? More, it's like there'd be kind of shouted stuff to get people listening about who we were and what we were about and what we believed.
Yeah.
And then just music, instruments.
Yeah. And then indoor, well, we had much more of a repertoire of songs, more of which is what's on the album, really, because then that was possible. And we bought a PA, didn't we?
People would put gigs on who weren't necessarily hadn't got any experience of putting gigs on, and so rather than expecting them to work out how to get a PA, then we kind of would turn up and we could do the evening. We'd got what we needed to do the evening.
We would get more bookings because we'd say, "Oh, we'll provide the PA." And back in the day, people didn't necessarily lay their hands on PA equipment very easily.
Yeah, it wasn't like now.
There's so much more available now.
And
then
because
it wasn't so easy to get.
Because we were such a difficult band to mix, because it was acoustic instruments.
Yeah.
We trained up our own sound people. Quite often it was women-only things, and if we turned up to some venue and some bloke didn't know how to mix this, it would have been, or a woman, it would have been very, very hard.
Well, that's it. Probably
get
some
it
of the
right.
venues wouldn't have wanted a man to come in anyway, would they?
We had this kind of idea. We loved the fact that we had this ambulance, and we called Nina, who was yellow, and we drove around in Nina with the gear, with ourselves, and we'd arrive and we'd have everything, and it was almost like
Well, and the line.
It was a
if
circus.
we could have done, we would have had an inflatable venue. We always said we wanted an
Yeah.
inflatable venue.
We just wanted to be all of it. We wanted, and we had the washing line, so we had our ambience because we used to have this backdrop.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of on the cover of Flapping Out, really, but we had this backdrop which was just a piece of washing line, and then we hung all this washing on, which spelled out the Fabulous Dirt Sisters. And it was really good because it meant that we'd had our own kind of set.
So we were building up, and at this time we were touring all over England all the time, and Wales and Scotland.
Yeah, I mean,
always in the
Southwest,
band.
Somerset.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
I
did a little tour of Somerset of the southwest.
Bradford, we were always playing Bradford, Wakefield.
And we would always look forward to the curry in that
in
restaurant.
that nice restaurant. Yeah, I mean, there was a whole thing that doesn't exist anymore, which was art centres, of which there are very few now, and they're much, and benefits, lots of women's gigs. There were just lots of women's gigs
and there was
going
money.
on.
There was money.
And there was money. Yeah, we'd get paid.
We drove to the ferry, we got on the ferry, we got off the other side, and Dorry, you said, how much money do we have? Or we have this much money. How much money does everybody have? And we had kind of, £5, 20 quid, whatever. And we had £100 of travellers' checks in the glove compartment. And that was going to be our emergency stash.
fund,
And you said, right, now we've got to play, then we can buy some food and have some lunch. So we got out and we played. We drove to Luxembourg.
We got so good at the central village, going through, finding
I
the
loved
stuff.
it. I loved it so much. That just
really
get on the road,
efficient.
busk, get the money, get some petrol, get some
Go and
food,
play
move on.
I remember busking in Zurich where it's illegal.
And we got
on the main street,
the
outside the
Bahnhofstrasse.
biggest shopping centre, getting an incredible crowd because it's not allowed.
We got thrown into
Well,
a van.
no, not because we were good.
We were very good.
And it was a great break for all these super serious, phenomenally wealthy, financially motivated people to have this thing of action and passion and brilliant music, aliveness in the street. Yeah,
It was very mega about we're alive and it's now, But I remember that we did get arrested.
We did get arrested and threatened with deportation unless we went somewhere else. We had to buy our instruments back, pay a fine for our instruments, didn't we?
We got put in a van with a siren
with
on
no
it
windows.
and charging up to the station.
Do you remember after this moment of busking, first time in Zurich, we go and put the tents up, we get to Lake Zurich, and all of us go, let's go for a swim, and we all go, and we go cold. 5 strong swimmers! We're 5 strong swimmers!
We swam across the lake.
We swam across the lake and it was really cold, I think, if I remember.
And that's where the record name
And then
came from.
I think we must have said, that'd be a good record title or something, 5 Strong Swimmers.
I think about sitting around the fire singing, and singing as as a way of entertaining ourselves. People would make up silly songs for entertainment, and people would sing while blockading the road in order to keep spirit up, because you see the police cordon come towards you and
the horses
running towards you. And that was really scary, wasn't it?
It was really scary.
And singing was incredibly powerful as a way of keeping that up. It was also a way of challenging. You'd be on the other side of the fence and you'd maybe be singing songs to the soldiers or whoever on the other side, and it was a way of tweaking their conscience.
There was so important, and at the
And it
time
was
you
very
did feel that
empowering.
the Americans were going to get us blown up with their cruise missiles. You did feel that every day in the Cold War that something awful was about to happen, didn't you?
Yeah.
You really did feel it.
And
And
I mean,
so going to Greenham and going down on the motorway, and then you see another coach, another coach, another coach, and all these
for
women.
the big actions.
And that was amazing.
But it was the first time, wasn't it, that women had spoken out in that way as women, probably since the suffragettes, you know, and suddenly it was like women's voices against militarism. And it wasn't just, you know, there was a lot of sort of publicity about sort of lesbians and people, you know, in woolly hats and all sorts, but it involved such a cross-section of women, and that's what people often forget. You know, they talk about Greenham women and there's this sort of stereotype.
Separatist lesbian.
But all sorts of people, and it was this amazing alliance between, you know, all sorts of different women. You know, it wasn't necessarily women who were that alternative or anything.
Women for
Peace, stand up together. Women all over the world, stand up and say no. Women for peace. Dun, dun, dun.
It was a little bit of a simplistic anthem, but you need some numbers like that occasionally. I mean, the women's movement was, stating the obvious, was about against oppression and the shutting down of people's potential and aliveness and all of that. So, and there was just that amazing buzz of women suddenly kind of finding their voices, finding their feet, you know, and it was like, you know, the cork being taken out of, you know, it was very fizzy, you know, and very exciting, and we were kind of part of that and riding on that, but the underneath celebration, I think, is just aliveness and creativity and connection, those things that
And making stuff together.
There was a big thing about that we kind of, like, we were really connected to each other as individuals. We knew each other really well as individuals.
Yes, we did.
And we allowed each other to be the individual that we were, and celebrated each other for that. So we kind of fed each other in that way, didn't we? And enjoyed seeing each other express ourselves.
Yeah, because we did know each other so well and really like each other.
And I think
Still do.
there was something about that time. It was, I mean, that was Thatcher's Britain, wasn't it? And it was very heavy. It was very hard being young, I think, at that point. Or maybe it was hard being any age at that point. But it felt very like there weren't routes out, obvious, were there? There were a lot of blocks in
There's a grimness,
our life.
wasn't there?
Grimness, and so it felt like it was in response to that, and in a movement in response to that, particularly around women, but just
totally.
we're going to be here and we're going to have a
and our
a good
values.
time, and we're going to
put our
show that
values forward,
we can
aren't we?
fight it,
Kind
it's
of
not gonna
appreciate
stop.
the values and things that are important to us.
It was our way of directly acting, actually.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was definitely
about
direct
putting
action.
voices out and putting energy out, and it was at a time when, and of great optimism as well, because there were so many of us celebrating or being active,
Fighting for change and really
Yeah,
believing it was
completely.
living it,
Counterculture,
completely
wasn't
living
it?
it.
It was a kind of counterculture thing.
But it was really direct and active and just fizzing with energy and this great strength and belief and this massive sense of hope that we really could make a change. Yeah.
I'm sure we did.
We were very celebratory. I suppose what I think is really important, that you know, even if you were singing or about serious things, there was something about we're here and we're doing this that always for me carried a sense of celebration. And I always felt the Dirt Sisters were fantastically celebratory, because it was just we were like that. We just felt that.
We haven't seen each other. I haven't seen these guys.
A hug, a
for
dirty
like
hug.
25,
Give us a dirty hug.
25 years.
Let's just go out.
Something
You've
like
got to say
that.
your line, Kaffe.
Say your line.
Let's just get out there and enjoy ourselves.
And a girl. And that's what we did. We had a big hug before every gig. We would have a big hug, and she would say that, and we'd go, yeah!
Enjoy ourselves.
And we did enjoy ourselves massively. We enjoyed ourselves.